Today we're going to cover commas versus semicolons. There's a little bit of a difference, and you need to know it for ninth grade. So here we go. Alright. Sometimes an independent clause stands alone as a sentence. So sometimes an independent clause is all by itself. And sometimes two independent clauses are linked together into what is called a compound sentence. So this means that it's more complicated. It's two thoughts together in one sentence. It makes writing a little bit more fluid, more complicated, better. You can have deeper thinking when you combine two thoughts together. So when you do that, and you've done this all the time in your writing, so when you do combine two independent clauses, you either connect them with two different punctuation marks. Depending on the circumstances, one of two different punctuation marks can be used between the two independent clauses in a compound sentence. And your choices are a comma or a semicolon. Only those two, nothing else. No exclamation points because that separates the sentence. No question marks, that separates the sentence, makes it two. Not a period. If you put a period, it makes it two sentences. So those are your only two possible options, a comma or a semicolon. Alright. So when to use a comma? Use a comma after the first independent clause. So you have two together, so use it after the first one. When you link, when you're linking two together. And you're using one of these following coordinating conjunctions: and, but, for, or, nor, so, or yet. So anytime you have two independent clauses, two complete thoughts, and you're combining them, what you're going to do is you're going to use, and you're combining with one of these words, the fanboy words, we've covered them. Put a comma in there. So here's an example. I am going home, comma, and I intend to stay there. Since those are two complete sentences, two complete ideas, you need to put a comma, even though there's that and, coordinating conjunction there. Here's another example. It rained heavily during the afternoon, but we managed to have our picnic anyway. So when using but there, you always, it's connecting the two ideas. So you need a comma to show that they're two separate ideas. And here's another example. They couldn't make it to the summit and back before dark, so they decided to camp for the night. So there's an example using the word so, that coordinating conjunction. So they couldn't make it to the summit and back before dark. You could put a period right in there, and then your next sentence would be, they decided to camp for the night. But since those two ideas are connected, and in all three of these examples, those two ideas are so closely connected, we don't want two separate sentences. We would rather have one sentence with two ideas. So here's when to use a semicolon. Use a semicolon when you link two independent clauses with no connecting words. So if you connect two independent clauses, and you're not using any of those fanboys, use a semicolon. So, and this will make sense when you see the example. I am going home, semicolon, I intend to stay there. See, those two thoughts are, linked together, but, so we want them in one sentence. But we have to put the semicolon there to know that, that the first clause has ended and the second one is beginning. It rained heavily during the afternoon, semicolon. We managed to have our picnic anyway. Two totally complete thoughts. You could put a period in there if you want, but since they're so closely connected, it's we put that semicolon in there, and it makes it one sentence. This is also nice because it makes your writing a little more fluid, alternating between using some of those fanboys or the semicolon. They couldn't make it. They couldn't make it to the summit and back before dark. They decided to camp for the night. That's not quite as smooth as that second one. That second example, and so using the word "so" there is might sound a little bit nicer, a little more fluid, but it's totally correct. You can do this. Not a real issue. So go for it. It's up to you, up to your writing style. Choosing between the comma and coordinating conjunction, fanboys, or this the semicolon. So one last page. So bonus time, using both in one sentence, and this gets a little bit confusing. So just hang in there. It's not too hard. You'll get the hang of it. So you can use a semicolon when you join two independent clauses together with one of the following conjunctive adverbs. So these are adverbs that join independent clauses together. Notice, so you have two independent clauses, and these are words that can connect them. So however, moreover, therefore, consequently, otherwise, nevertheless, thus. There's a lot of words. These are not all of them. So you can there's other words you can use. So here's an example. This will make a lot more sense. So I am going home, semicolon, because that's the end of our first independent clause. Moreover, comma, I intend to stay there. So we put that comma after moreover because it's like an introductory phrase. It's not a complete sentence, but it's something we need to separate from the rest of the sentence. We know there's a pause there. It's that introductory clause. So I am going home. Moreover, I intend to stay there. And that gives us, it changes the meaning a little bit. Moreover changes it instead of using, like, say the word and. And it gives, using that semicolon, it gives us a hard stop instead of like a soft stop that a comma would give. Not a big deal, but this is how you use that. Here's another example. It rained heavily during the afternoon, semicolon. However, we managed to have our picnic anyway. And I think this is a really great example of using that semicolon and the comma, because however gives us a little bit more information. It rained heavily during the afternoon. Okay, so we know it's raining. Man, and that was a bummer. And so, however, so even though it was raining, we managed to have our picnic anyway. And so that gives us a little, more information on what was happening to these people that day. And this last example is they couldn't make it to the summit and back before dark. Therefore, they decided to camp for the night. So we get that full, complete, independent clause. So they couldn't make it back. They couldn't make it to the summit and back before dark. Semicolon. There we go. End of the complete thought. Therefore, they decided to camp for the night. And that gives us a little more information. So they were trying to go up and back, but they couldn't do it, and so therefore they decided to camp for the night. Therefore works the same as so in this case, but it's just a different word. Changes the meaning a little bit, changes the flow of your writing. So this is pretty easy. There's not too many complications going on here. So if you have any questions, please ask me in class or during homeroom. But that's all I have for commas and semicolons.